Hey everybody, welcome to 30 Ways to Happy Days. This is Alana Yvonne from Truly Great Life, and we are on way number 9. And way number 9 is the character strength of hope. Now, for those of you who might be seeing this or listening to this for the first time, I do recommend and encourage you to check out ways number 1 and 2 as they are foundational for the rest of this series. All right, so way number 9, we are on hope, character strength of hope. Feelings of hope. Hope is a biggie. Hope is, well, think of what that means to you before I jump into the definition. When you hear the word hope, and when you hear hope described as a character strength, right, as a muscle that you have, that every human being has, because that's what these character strengths are, right? It's described from the field of positive psychology as 24 different ways, different pathways, different muscles, if you will, that every human being from every culture has. And the only question is, are we aware of them, and how do we use them or not use them? Do we overuse them, underuse them? Okay? So for you, when you think about hope, you know, for some of you, are you like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's definitely one of the top character strengths that I have and use all the time, and that's one of my go-tos. And are others of you like, oh, I don't even know what that feels like to have hope? Like maybe that's not one that you're using or are aware that you can figure out that there are ways to use it deliberately and with intention. You know, maybe you're just feeling hopeless because of a situation you're in, because of a relationship you're in, because of something on the macro level or the micro level in your life or in the larger society. But as we're going to dive in a little bit here, and as you'll hopefully see, hope is really something that we can elevate, right? And once we're aware of it, we can take steps to kind of bump it up. And this is why I call it one of the ways to happy days, even if it's just a little bit of a nudge. Okay, so think of something going on in your life right now that you feel you could either use your character strength of hope naturally and easily to even make it better, or if you're feeling like you can't really relate to that right now, you know, maybe just an open mind to learning a little bit about how maybe you can start to feel a little hope or be open to the idea of allowing more hope to come into that situation. Okay, so definition of hope, right? So definition of hope is optimism, right? Is anticipating the good in the future, right? Expecting things are going to turn out okay, or turn out great, or turn out well, right? And taking steps to help make that happen, right? Working towards achieving whatever that good is that you anticipate in the future, whether that's later today or in a couple days or down the road years, you know, whatever that hope is. And sometimes, depending on how difficult the situation is, we need to almost like zoom out a little more and see a bigger picture to have more hope, right? If the near term, if the short term is looking really challenging, and this ties into another character strength that we will get to in a future video, and it's that of perspective. I'm just giving a little hint. But hope, right, is that it's almost like a belief, right? Because if you look at your situation, if you're just looking at it from a rational, you know, standpoint or point of view, it isn't necessarily going to look great, right? Like you may be able to point to all these data points or proof points that things are really crappy or things are worth, you know, worrying about or catastrophizing or not feeling sure. And that may all be objectively true, or maybe that perspective is, you know, valid on some level, depending on, you know, what it is you're thinking about. But hope is that, you know, what's the line? Hope springs eternal. I mean, there's going to be a lot of quotes you can look up after this video, you know, after this recording, quotes about hope, you know, whatever is going to help you start thinking about different ways to think about hope and be reminded that you too can tap into hope. Okay. But it's really, I think, one of the more important character strengths, especially when things are difficult. All of these character strengths are helpful. All of them are tools in your pocket that you can pull out, play with, consider. Hope is like one of those, really, really important ones. We talked about fairness yesterday, so that's also an important one, but you can see where fairness, I described as really like a mind strength, right? And love, which we talked about earlier, that's like a heart strength. So hope is, like a heart strength and like a soul strength, right? I mean, it's really something that is very easy for naysayers that you may have in your life, or naysayers that you may be familiar with, to like put that idea down, or, what do they say? Squash that hope, right? Just kind of squash it, right? Detractors and naysayers. So you can always look and find reasons why we shouldn't have any hope, or all hope is lost, but the idea of hope is like, maybe there's that little glimmer of possibility, right? There's a lot that we don't know going on, perhaps, that if we can hold space for the possibility of it turning out good, even if, some of us may be predisposed to looking for that, we talked about this also yesterday a little bit, like we are wired as human beings to seek out the threat and the negative, right? Evolutionarily wise. But we also maybe are wired for hope, because we got up the next day and kept looking for food, right? On the savannah, or hunting, or whatever it was, however far back you want to go for examples of like, there's something in human beings that we have that capacity to dream and to have hope that it will turn out all right. And that ties into whatever goal we set, so that we can go through the hard parts to try and achieve it. Okay, so hope is a really important quality, to hold on to when you are facing a challenge, right? And it seems everyone has challenges of different levels, big C challenges and little C challenges, like the challenge of maybe getting out the door in the morning with the kids on the way to school, right? And then there's big C challenges, like related to health challenges and financial challenges and all kinds of challenges. So how do we not give in to despair, right? One of those ways can be remembering that we have these resources, and hope is a really important one. So one thing to also know is that this character strength of hope is very strongly associated, okay, with all of the things we talked about in the first recording, right? Which is meaning and satisfaction and engagement and sense of purpose, right? Hope is like a really big one for the things that really lead towards a flourishing and a thriving in your life. So two types of thinking that goes in to this, associated with this character strength of hope. And one is the sense that you can, have the capacity to follow through and pursue your goals, right? So it's the belief that you can, right? That sense of agency that you can figure out and pursue the goals, right? And then there's also, so that's called agency thinking, right? That you can have that motivation to go and follow through with those goals that you're, pursuing, all right? That's that sense of agency that I can. I think I can. I think I can. I know I can. I know I can, right? And then pathways thinking is where you understand that you can create these goals and figure out ways, and there could be multiple different ways to achieve them, right? There's many ways to, what's the phrase, skin a cat? That's a terrible example, but like there are multiple ways to achieve something. It isn't just one way or the highway, right? And sometimes things come up and then we need to, we talked about flexibility and adaptability, right? So hope, if we're looking at the pathways thinking, right? Hope ties into, also an ability to be flexible, because hope is almost like a response to a challenge, right? Hope really comes into play because we're aware whether we have it or not when things get tough. How hopeful do you feel that you'll figure it out? How hopeful do you feel that there's a way through or out or around or whatever? How quickly do you feel like you're going to give up because there's no point, there's no hope, right? And the more you desire something, the more you're motivated to see that through or to see where this goes, right? Sometimes I like to say I want to see how the story ends, right? And so one of the things about hope is that it is about the future, okay? So it's important to be mindful, it's important to be present, and it's also important to have a vision for the future that excites you. It's also important to have a vision for something to look forward to and to know that you've got, that agency, that sense of I can, and that sense of I can come up with or figure out or get help figuring out a way forward. So there's the I can part and I can figure it out. When we feel stuck, it can feel like a hopeless situation, right? So if you feel stuck in something right now, and if you don't feel like you have the motivation to like figure things out, this is where you get to think about even the bigger picture related to whatever it is you're stuck in. So if you're looking for, let's say, work, or you're working on a project in school or in whatever it is, or a relationship, wherever you're feeling stuck, it's like, what am I doing here again? Why is this important to me? This is where we get to tap into the meaning of what we do. And this is where when we're awake and alive and aligned with what it is we want to do and what has meaning for us, there's hope invariably woven in there. Right? But you gotta want it. We can BS our way towards achieving certain things, and depending on what it is that's motivating you, when things get tough, you may tap into hope, but if you're not really that aligned with what you're going for, then it's probably more of like, depending on what it is, like, I need to get this done because I need to get paid, and I need to get paid so I can go on that vacation, right? And that's fine too, to have these very practical aspects. And maybe in that case, like, there's less hope, unless maybe you want to tie in hope to the beauty, the projection of a positive future of that vacation, let's say. So it's that anticipation of a beautiful, this is a little bit maybe not a direct application here, but my only point is that you get to think about, even at work where you may not see where hope can be there, you can have hope for a project, you can have hope, maybe you're holding out for hope with a promotion, with an opportunity to work on a certain project. Same at school, if you're pursuing a degree or a diploma or a certificate, what are you hoping that will give you, right? What is the vision you have of your future that you are willing to set a goal and figure out and be motivated to see that goal through? Okay, so there's a lot of things here with hope, but basically, if we were to explain hope to students or our kids, like, hope is where you see things for the good, or you can see the possibility of the good, right? You're generally positive about, let's say, that situation. I'm trying not to use the same word, but you have hopes that it will be a good outcome, right? And you work, it's also tied into hope being, latching onto hope so that you can take action. When we don't feel hope, we can become flat out like, what's the point? What's the point? So where in your life do you not have hope? Where in your life are you not using that muscle? It might be flabby, it might not be exercised, it might not be awake, but where are you not using hope? Where do you feel you've given up? And if you know that, like, hope is there, being like, I'm not dead yet, right? Like, come on in. What can you possibly try to achieve or to revisit, something that you gave up on that does have meaning for you, okay? Something that is important. Because hope is really about expecting good in the future, even when it doesn't seem like, logically you should, right? And this is also where faith comes in. faith and belief and trust. And, so where your personal belief system is, whether it's through a religion or a practice, spiritual practice, or a philosophy, or whatever it is, right? What does that structure, what does that lens say about hope? So if that's important to you, if that's a framework for you, you can look for sources within that about hope. Okay? Hope is basically that character strength, that ability to keep going forward and not giving up, right? Not giving up and expecting it to turn out good. And what's the line? There's a line about if it's not, it ain't over, something about if it's not over, if it's not good, then it's not over, something like that. Okay? So if something in your life isn't going the way you want, if something in your life is frustrating you, if something in your life is disappointing, you can ask yourself, is this something that I can take action in? What would I like to see in that situation? What would be the ideal thing if I could wave my magic wand, right? What would that situation be like? How far a gap is that from where you are now? Dial it back to okay, so, what would be one step I can take towards that hopeful vision, towards that hopeful future? How can I bring a sense of optimism into it? How can I bring this anticipation of a good outcome? So, this is really about how do I move towards goals that matter to me. Okay, whether that's a spiritual goal or a physical goal or a financial goal, interpersonal goal, whatever kind of goal it is. And you could make the argument that in this series I'm presenting here, the goal is to be a little happier. Okay, so how would I do this? So if we're going to look at the character strength of hope, to be a little happier vis-a-vis this series, let's put it this way. It's certainly my hope, right? I am anticipating a positive outcome for you guys by learning about the things I'm sharing and implementing them and teaching them to other people, right? I am, hopeful based on what I know about what I'm sharing that this can be of value for you. Therefore, I move forward with that hope of a good future, both for me in sharing it with you, because this ties into my sense of meaning and purpose, sharing this with you, right? And my hope is that you will benefit from it and then move forward with it in sharing it with someone else or improving, your own life in whatever it is. So maybe you as a listener, can exercise your muscle of hope by saying, even though, I'm listening because I have the hope that this will help my future be better. Again, I'm today I'm a little off with my examples, but hopefully you're coming up with an example in your own life that is relevant and really, meaningful and juicy, and you get to think about how to use hope, right? And expecting the good things to happen in your life. So what the research shows is that a person who is high in the character strength of hope, and what this means is, let's say you don't feel this is, a strong, high character strength for you. But understanding for those that do use this more easily, energetically, often, and effortlessly, and feels like essential to who they are, these are things that you can be aware of that can help you boost your hope strength, okay? Number one is setting clear and attainable goals. Okay, we're not going to get into the whole details about goals, but let's just say specific goals, right? They're clear and they're not some I want to be a billionaire, in the next X number of years. That may or may not be attainable, right? Something you can attain, that is possible. It's within the realm of possible, okay? And it's pretty clear and well defined. And then a person who is high in hope can develop multiple strategies. So we're talking plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D. A lot of times people go into things thinking plan A, got it, done, move. And then stuff happens and it's like, oh, back to the drawing board. Now I'll come up with plan B. So coming up with multiple, and it could be that it's linear, right? That you first do A and then you're like, oops, then B. But, if you can think about, well, there's this possibility and that possibility, and being able to kind of see that if one pathway doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world, and I'm going to give up, and I'm going to be despondent, and I've lost all hope. So that's the whole point, is when you use hope, you're making this goal something that is within the realm of possible, because if it's not, then like you're not even motivated, right? You're like, it's a hopeless case, okay? And then the second thing is you can think of multiple ways to get whatever it is you're trying to get, that specific goal, okay? And then you're motivated, right? You're motivated when the going gets tough. You're gonna keep figuring it out. You're gonna get more, and this involves also the use of other character strengths. You're going to remember why you're doing it. You're gonna be looking at the big picture. You're anticipating that there will be some challenges. So how do we bring hope into, the big picture here? Well, whatever your goal is right now, and whatever the goal of other people that may influence you is, okay? So if you're in a system like a school or an organization, right, that dictates to some level what your goals are, let's say, like how, by tying, let's say, the organization or the school's goals, hitch it onto what your personal goal really is. Aside from this is going to be a practical degree, or this is my paycheck, right? What's ultimately, your goal? Is it an expansion of learning? Is it being a different kind of person? Is it having more opportunities? Is it, serving or contributing to a certain cause? If you're able to tie it again to the meaning, to your why, then, that's something that you desire, that's your big goal here, that you can then have more anticipation that it's possible for you to get to that bigger goal, and then have that motivation to pursue it when it gets tough. Okay, so hope springs eternal. Hope springs eternal for whatever reason. And some people are wired that way, that they're natural optimists, right? And they pick themselves up. And I know I used that in another video, I don't remember which one, but so for me, as I've mentioned, music. So what songs fill you with hope, remind you to have hope, right? Maybe there's a historical figure or a novel or a book or a movie or whatever. Historical fiction for me is fabulous, because that's my preferred genre of reading, because I think it's really tied to many of these character strengths, but really about hope, right? That is inspiring to me. And when we read, that gives us examples of how other people have had goals, even if that goal is survival, right? Staying alive and, facing challenges and believing that they can do it, right? Even if it's believing they can live for another day or another hour, okay? And figuring it out, not giving up and going, okay? So, I am a third generation Holocaust survivor, and my grandmother would always say, we must always have hope, right? We must always have hope. You can never not have hope. You must always have hope. So to hear that from someone who went through what she went through, is a reminder that no one owes us anything in this life. No one's guaranteeing that life is going to be easy, right? No guaranteed outcomes. No one says it's going to be fair. Whatever. Can you have hope that it will get better? Can you have hope, and can you take steps? Because it's about the action. It's not blind hope necessarily, right? We're talking about hope as a way that we anticipate the good, we believe it can be good, and we're willing to take action to try and make that happen. We're willing to take action to try and get there. Okay, so that's, think about people in your own life, in your own family, in your own personal history, in your culture, in your religion, in your ethnicity, wherever. On whose there's a great line about like on whose shoulders do you stand, right? How much did hope keep your ancestors moving forward with whatever challenges your particular lineage has had that brought you to this day and brought you here? How much was hope a part of that, where they didn't give up, right? And then can you take strength from that and knowing that you've got that strength as well, right? Challenges today are different than what people dealt with a decade ago, a generation ago, never mind tens and hundreds of generations ago, for sure. And again, we're living in interesting times. Technology has totally changed the game of the human experience in many ways. Some for good, some it's questionable, right? But how do we continue to use these kind of evergreen qualities of the human experience to have hope for our future? There's a lot of doomsday out there, right? A lot. How can we use hope to be optimistic? How can we use hope to keep the faith that it's going to work out and I'm going to take actions to help that come about within my sphere of influence? That's a more hopeful attitude, I think, than there's no point. What's the point? Not to say that we don't have moments like that, right? But overall, you want to kind of, you get to kind of lean towards more optimism, let's say. How do you balance that towards more hope and optimism? Okay. So one other thing that I wanted to share, again, in addition to look at your personal history, look at the things that inspire you or motivate you, look at stories and histories, and tales of survival, overcoming the odds, persisting and moving forward. This is all hope. Without hope, we're lost. So what are you hopeful for? What do you hope will happen for, yourself, your loved ones moving forward? What can you do, in terms of setting a clear and attainable goal for right now, short term? How does that tie into something that you want for the long term? And can you come up with multiple ways to try and bring that about, to try and make that happen? Okay. And then what I would just say is, also think about things within culture, if this works for you, that will reinforce this idea of hope. Okay, so I mentioned think of certain movies. There's a ton of movies out there. There's a ton of movies out there with the theme of hope, right? Where you can spot the character strength of hope. And one must always have hope. And I just wanted to share 2 songs. And again, if you like music, think of some songs that fill you with hope, remind you to have hope. Now I'm thinking of Frank Sinatra's but he has high hopes. I'm not going to sing that. I don't think I can hit that note. But also, Annie, The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow. Great song. When you're stuck with a day that's gray and lonely, stick up your chin, grin, and say, okay, you can take the rest of that. And then the other one is, if you've seen the Prince of Egypt. Is that what it's called? Why am I blanking out on that? Prince of Egypt from DreamWorks from 99, 98. Okay, There Can Be Miracles When You Believe. That is a very beautiful song. Totally recommend you check it out if you're not familiar with it. But, it has a line there can be miracles when you believe, though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. So hope is a precious thing, and you have the strength of hope in you. And I hope, that this has given you a little bit of, reinforcements to look through the lens of hope and use your own abilities to believe in yourself, to believe in your ability to make change, even if it's incremental, even if it's baby steps towards your own hopeful future. And with that, thank you for your time, and we'll see you on the next one for way number 10.